Hi there, and welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name is Adrian, and today we're going to be looking at this Hyundai HYM510SPE lawnmower. And specifically, we're going to be draining the fuel and draining the oil. So we're going to start with draining the fuel from the system on the lawnmower. Now there are several reasons why you may want to do this. You may have stale fuel, you may be wanting to drain the fuel out for winter storage, you may have contaminated fuel, but we'll show you how to drain the system completely. So to start with, we need to know how much fuel is in the mower. So I'll just remove the filler cap, take a look, and I can see there's about half a litre, half a tank in there. So that's probably a little bit too much to drain directly out from the carburetor. Would make quite a mess. So if you are fortunate enough to have an assistant or somebody to help out, you could take a suitable container, tip the mower up quickly onto its side and pour that half a litre out. But I haven't got an assistant, so we won't do it that way. So on the same note, I have a little vacuum pump here, and I typically put the end of the pipe in and withdraw the fuel from the tank into a suitable container with a vacuum pump. But you probably haven't got one of those, so we won't do it that way. So moving on, we need to get the fuel out of the tank, and the fuel pipe connects underneath the fuel tank here. A simple way is to remove that fuel pipe, and with a jug with a funnel on it or a spout, we can allow the fuel tank to drain into the jug. So we'll do it that way. So you'll see the fuel pipe here with a little metallic clip. If I take a long nose pliers, let me just try and get you a better view. I'll squeeze the two ears of the clip and pull the clip back down the pipe out of the way. So that will now allow me to pull the fuel pipe off the fuel tank. So I'm just going to take a little bit of absorbent paper and put it underneath. Obviously no naked flames or anything like that while we're dealing with fuel. And I have my jug at the ready. So I'm just going to use the long nose pliers again and just tease the fuel pipe to get it started. Okay, it's coming off. Right. I'll just put my finger over the end of the pipe and get ready with my jug and feed my fuel jug over the end of the pipe. So a couple of minutes and we'll have the fuel tank drained. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes now. No more fuel is coming out of the tank, and I've collected the, probably half litre, just about half a litre into the jug. So that's the fuel tank empty. If I just bring you in on the outlet from the fuel tank, you can see this little white coloured nylon part here. If I just grab hold of that and pull it out, may get a little more fuel out. Okay, so this is a little fuel filter or strainer which should stop any debris that gets in the tank getting into the fuel system. So if you do find that you've got a blockage in the fuel system somewhere and no fuel is getting to the carburetor, it could well be that this little filter is blocked. So you can remove the fuel pipe and clean the filter. Compressed air, something like that would do it once it's dried. So with the fuel tank empty, a few drips coming out, I'll just replace the little filter back in again. So with the fuel tank empty, I'll just replace the little fuel pipe, push it back home fully, and I'll get the little clip. I may be able to even do this with my fingers. Yes, I can. And I've replaced the little clip that holds the fuel pipe on. So the fuel tank is empty, but we still have fuel in the fuel line, and it may still drip now that I put the pipe back on, in the fuel line and in the carburetor float bowl. So we now need to drain the system, the fuel line and the carburetor. So to do that, we're going to come to the front of the mower and I'll show you the little drain bolt. So on the front of the lawnmower here, on this, the right hand side, looking from the front, you'll see the carburetor float bowl here. I'll bring you in a bit closer. So on the float bowl, you'll see this little bolt here, the one with the red paint on. It's on a sort of 45-degree angle to the bowl itself, and there is another bolt on the bottom. We're not going to be touching the bolt on the bottom, we're going to be concerned with this one that's on the angle. So we're going to remove this bolt. So again, I'm going to put some absorbent paper down into the bed of the lawnmower, because we are going to have a small amount of petrol leaking from the fuel line and the float bowl. We've removed the majority of it, so I'm just going to undo that drain anti-clockwise, and I'll remove the bolt. Now it's very difficult to get a catch jug or anything like that because there isn't a lot of room, but as you can see, the fuel is draining out into the paper. So we can do this in a controlled way by just loosening the bolt and letting it drip out, or I can remove the bolt completely and just let that final quantity of fuel in the system drip out. So we've had the initial splurge of fuel coming out. The paper towel has caught all of that. And we'll probably leave this for a few minutes now so that any final parts of fuel that's dripping out of the tank, out of the fuel line into the carburetor, can drip out of this float bowl. So time for a cup of tea. Okay, so 10 minutes have passed now and there's no more signs of fuel coming out of the system. So I'll replace the little bolt back in. Let me just get into shot here, I'm sorry, I'm in your way. There we go. So I'm screwing the little bolt back in, remembering the little fibre washer, just making sure we don't lose that when we take the bolt out and put it back in. Otherwise we'll have a leak. Okay, and I'll just tighten it back up. So I can remove a little bit of absorbent towel and remove any spilled fuel that we might have, but there was very little. Okay, so that's the fuel system drained, and I'll replace the filler cap. Of course, the simplest way to remove the majority of the fuel is to let the lawnmower run until it runs out of fuel. But then remember, you'll never use every drop of fuel in the carburetor, so it's still worthwhile knowing how to drain the carb of the last bits of fuel, even if it's run out. Okay, so that's the fuel system completely drained. So let's move on to removing the oil from your lawnmower. Ideally, you'd want to run the lawnmower for maybe 10 minutes first, just to warm up the engine oil in the engine. That'll make it a lot thinner or a lot more viscous. It'll run out quicker. And what we're going to do is pour it out through the filler neck. Now again, you're going to need a bit of assistance for this. Somebody to hold the jug while we tip the lawnmower over. There are a couple of drain bolts on the lawnmower, but in this particular application, it would be very difficult to get a pipe or anything like that onto the drain bolts to remove it through the drain plugs, as it were. So the simplest way is to pour it back out through the filler tube. Again, if you do have a vacuum pump, that would be you know, the ideal scenario. So we'd have nice warm oil, we'd remove the dipstick. And basically, if you had an assistant or somebody to hold the jug, the oil jug, we could tip the lawnmower over, put the jug right up tight to the filler neck, and tip, by angling the mower over, tip the engine oil out. And as you can see, it's not very good for me to demonstrate on the table, but you will, by the time the mower's up at sort of, not 90 degrees, but most of the way up, the oil will pour out of the filler neck. So once the oil's been completely removed, we can just replace the dipstick. So, with the oil and fuel removed, we've completely drained all the fluids from the lawnmower. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.hyundaipowerproducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and thank you for watching.